So the person who murdered Rayshar Brooks, Garrett Rolfe, um, uh, has a history of violence in his past as a cop, yet um, no one else did anything to punish him for his abuses, which is why we can't really trust police departments, the chiefs, and stuff like that, because they all help cover up the crimes of other cops. Um, it usually takes some kind of big investigation by, um, like the FBI or something, in order to figure something out, because normally all the cops will protect each other. Um, in my opinion, the cops who helped cover up uh, cases of abuse should also be punished as a accessories, or what, a accomplice.
Atlanta police fired Garrett Rolfe within 24 hours of the shooting of Rayshar Brooks last Friday night. 11 Alive Chief Investigator Brendan Keefe discovered this is not the first time the police department had to investigate the now fired officer for improper use of force involving a firearm.
Hey, Mr. Brooks. Two lives are about to change forever. How you doing? Hey, I'm Officer Rolfe from the Atlanta Police Department. How you doing? 26 minutes after Officer Garrett Rolfe started a DUI investigation of Rayshard Brooks in the Wendy's parking lot, put your hands behind your back. They would be locked in a violent struggle. Officer and suspect both making split-second decisions that would end Rayshard Brooks' life. Garrett Rolfe joined the force as an academy cadet in late 2013.
The one just ran out that way.
The Reveal investigative team already had this video from the rescue of a kidnapping victim in 2016.
He just ran up this way.
Rolfe was one of the backup officers who chased the other kidnapping suspects.
We're gonna shoot you! I'm gonna shoot you! I'm gonna shoot your ass! I'm gonna shoot you!
He fired his taser, but missed. In this incident, all the suspects were successfully captured and convicted, and there were no allegations of wrongdoing on the part of Officer Rolfe. But he was investigated by the APD Office of Professional Standards 12 times, according to a summary released by the department. 4 of them complaints filed by citizens against Officer Rolfe between 2015 and 2018. One citizen complaint was not sustained, and he was completely exonerated in the other 3. In October of 2017, APD issued a written reprimand to Officer Rolfe after Internal Affairs sustained an allegation of improper use of force involving a firearm.
Okay, so 12 complaints against him, with a number of them pretty much being waved away, and a written reprimand for a use of force involving a gun. So he shot somebody, and all they did was, uh, you know, write him a note saying he was bad. This is the reason why cops end up getting to the point where they murder people, because they're able to get away with their abuses for so long that they are like, oh, I can kill this person, and I know I'm not going to get in trouble.
We don't know any of the details of these internal investigations yet, because Atlanta police have so far released only a summary of Rolfe's disciplinary record.
Found him passed out in the...
State records show Garrett Rolfe has received more than 2,000 hours of training in his 7-year career, and since January of this year, he's been trained in firearms, de-escalation, cultural awareness, and deadly force. So at this
It seems like he's not using any of his training whatsoever.
Point, Officer Rolfe is not charged in the shooting at Wendy's from last Friday. The Fulton County District Attorney Paul Howard says he could make that decision as early as tomorrow. His office told 11 Alive that the 3 charges they're considering right now are murder, which would be the most serious, felony murder, and voluntary manslaughter, which would be the least serious. Today, we spoke to criminal defense attorney Bill McKinney about the case. He's not representing the officer, but he used to be a police officer in New York and served as a legal advisor to the Atlanta Police Department. He says in his experience, even the voluntary manslaughter would be hard to argue, and he questions how quickly the possible charges will be announced.
In 40 years, I've never seen a jump to judgment this quickly. It normally takes weeks and months by GBI investigators, internal affairs from the police department, and even outside agencies to look at this before they make any type of judgment, whether it's criminal, as opposed to something that could be civil or disciplinary.
And he says that Howard has argued in other cases against officers that a taser is a deadly weapon, which could potentially open the door for Rolfe to argue self-defense if he is in fact charged.
Okay, if tasers are going to be considered deadly weapons, then there needs to be something done about cops being able to freely use them as often as they do, instead of using the supposed more lethal weapon, which is their gun. They're supposed to be able to use their taser as a non-lethal option of subduing the person instead of shooting them. But if they're going to be considered lethal weapons, then I feel people should have the right to defend themselves from lethal force, if that's going to be like the only options cops have of tackling crime, especially when it's just something like a person passed out in their car. We should strip cops of any type of lethal weapons and train them in using non-lethal methods.